saying, "Are you kidding? You are so lucky. You have a well, you have a pump, you have arms."
Nancy Orr's life off the grid with Tom in Montana is remarkable. Today, we will delve into her extraordinary life in the mountains and the tragedies that plagued her. While unclear to many, this woman had gone through tough times. What happened to her? Stay tuned. Let's find out the full story. Nancy and Tom, or before any cameras and cabins in Montana. Tom Orr lived quite a vicarious life in the wild west of rodeo. His fast and fearless journey not only led to worldwide fame, but also to his lifelong wife and partner Nancy Orr. Looking back through Tom Orr's life, he was a celebrated bronc rider who loved the thrill of mounting wild and untamed horses across the American West throughout the 1960s and early 1970s. Like Tom Orr, their deep partnership has marked and wise personal life. The exact date Nancy Orr met Tom isn't known, but one thing is sure, they fell in love, started a family together, and the rest, as they say, is history. While Tom Orr dedicated his life to his passion for the rodeo, Nancy Orr devoted her life to art. Soon enough, Tom couldn't handle the hustle and bustle of the rodeo anymore. While it was more than a job for him, he realized that his body couldn't endure the adrenaline, and he craved something greater for his life. So, he slowed down, and seemed to find the thrill of life in the quiet moments with his wife. Nancy and Tom found peace in retirement, away from the world. It was total isolation, but one that they loved. It was the kind of isolation that could be defined as wild and brutal seclusion that not many could endure. But for these two, it was pure bliss. So they set out for Montana's Yak Valley, where wolves thrived and the winter days arrived early and overstayed their welcome. There was something unspoken about this world for the Orrs. The land was clean, removed from reality, and offered a fresh start away from all the noise. Tom and Nancy found themselves drawn to this world. Especially Tom. It was a place that demanded the urge for survival from its residents, and it rewarded effort and hard work with peace. When they first arrived at the valley, the Orrs had a basic cabin and a little more. There was no running water, no phone, and no electricity. They made do with what they had and any other necessity they had to earn. If they needed heat, they had to use firewood. They would haul one log at a time, no matter the stress it came with. Food came from tilling the land, hunting, trapping, and foraging. As far as the world was concerned, they were off the grid and living away from civilization. While there were challenges in their new world, they also found a newfound peace. While the world was changing to a convenient life, they were returning in time. Tom began to immerse himself in the ancient art of traditional hide tanning, a craft passed through generations of Native American tribes. This was his way of staying connected to nature. It was also a skill, but more so a deeply rooted way of life. Nancy Orr was by his side the whole time. She helped Tom transform the mountains into a home. And together they built a life that mirrored the 1800s more than the 21st century. As one would expect, their days were quiet. But that didn't mean they had nothing to do or were bored. Contrary to that, with each sunrise came a new test. It was either tracking an animal, preparing for a storm, or repairing tools. One would think they were simply using the mountains to escape life, but they were living together on their own terms. There were no cameras, no crowds, and no rules. This was the dream for Nancy and Tom. It was almost heaven, but like all good things, it sometimes ended. The mountain years. Nancy Orr didn't seek fame or the attention it came with. Like Tom Orr, the world of reality TV was never on their radar, and if you had asked them about it in the early 2000s, they would have probably been at a loss for words. They had spent most of their time in the mountains, sewing gloves, checking traps, and gathering firewood. The last thing they had on their mind was the idea of a reality show and getting accustomed to having camera crews follow them every other day. However, things changed in 2012, and the world wanted to witness Nancy and Tom out. Producers of Mountain Men weren't looking for actors. They needed authenticity for the show to succeed. They required real people living real lives away from the world's comforts. The obvious choice, Tom Orr and his wife Nancy Orr. It was they had a couple who had honest hands that had been through the ringer, gentle voices, and even wisdom. The O's were the perfect choice for this new show. There was no need for them to be anyone but themselves. Tom Orr did not rehearse lines or put on a show for the cameras, and neither did Nancy. They were simply themselves, and they were going to keep it that way no matter what came their way, and so they did. The viewers quickly became engrossed in the lives of Tom and Nancy Orr, witnessing a raw and compelling story they couldn't help but love. Tom Auer would build new log cabins with hand tools, craft frontier moccasins from tanned hides, and even explain to a national audience how to make buckskin shirts just as he would to his friend who lived down the road. Nancy R. was just as fascinating to watch. She shared Tom's lifestyle of trapping, tanning, and creating handcrafted items. At the Willow Bend Trading Post in Troy, Montana, the Orrs would sell these items, including moccasins, buckskin clothing, and leather goods. It was a simple, yet beautiful life. And it was also at a time when most people couldn't go a second or a day without being glued to their phones. Tom and Nancy were the perfect duo. Tom was chasing wolves off his property and boiling pine needles for tea, while NY's off-grid lifestyle was also intertwined with Tom's dot. As the show became even more popular, Nancy and Tom received letters from fans seeking advice. They admired the couple's simple lifestyle and showed the audience a different way to live. Life as they knew it had changed for Nancy and Tom, but it was still a simple life that thousands of viewers could witness. The true magic of the show was Tom and Nancy Orr's life together. Whatever the task size, everything they did was executed with a certain zest for life and a clear sense of purpose. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They were just living. And that was the magic trick that caught the minds and hearts of viewers who tuned in one season after another with Nancy Orr by his side. Tom Orr was a man viewers could trust. They adored Tom Orr and saw a man they could listen to in him. This didn't apply to just Tom. Nancy was also the perfect woman and wife. Together, they left people in awe of their exemplary lifestyle. People watched Tom and Nancy go through life, unbothered by endless trends and the social status quo. They knew who they were and were rooted by family and humility while gaining attention and fame through the show. They never changed their personalities or priorities. They remained true to their simplistic lifestyle, never chasing brand deals or endorsements. All that mattered to them was the life they were building deep in the woods and being able to share it with their friends, family, and the whole world. The life of Nancy, or Nancy Auer, is a name that resonates in the hearts of all mountain men, fans, and those who follow the world of art and philanthropy. It's easy to box her up as the wife of mountain man Tom Orr, but she's more than just a lowly companion. In all her glory, Nancy Auer has made significant contributions to numerous causes and has profoundly impacted her community and beyond. Her life began in a small town. Even from her early days, she had a drive for creativity and a passion for helping others. Her life story isn't just roses and butterflies. She has faced numerous challenges. Yet, her determination and resilience have always kept her going. To truly understand Nancy Auer's heartbreaking tragedy, it is essential to understand her life story thus far. Nancy Auer was born on March 15, 1980, in Springfield, Illinois. From a young age, Nancy had a penchant and a passion for the arts, which would later significantly influence her career choices. She pursued her education at the University of Illinois, graduating with a degree in fine arts. Growing up in Illinois, Nancy had a supportive family that relished in supporting and nurturing her artistic talents. She participated in numerous art competitions in school, which ultimately helped her build confidence and hone her creative skills. By the time she completed high school, she decided to pursue her passion for the arts at the University of Illinois. Her education was a complete success, and she went on to make her way through life. She was also able to develop her craft further, inevitably establishing a solid foundation for her future career. It's easy to think of Nancy Orr's life simultaneously with that of her husband, Tom Orr. However, her life as an individual is far more interesting in its own right. After graduating from university, Nancy Orr decided to begin her journey in the world of art. And it wasn't surprising to see her thrive. In the art world, she quickly gained recognition for her unique style and innovative techniques. By the year 2002, she held her first solo exhibition, which was met with critical acclaim. This moment see her up for an infinite level of future successes. She's had about 4 major exhibitions, from the solo exhibition at the Art Institute of Chicago in 2005 to the group exhibition in New York City in 2007. Then there was the featured artist at the National Gallery in 2010. Finally, another major exhibition was the International Art Fair in Miami in 2015. Nancy Orr's artistic style is one to marvel at. Her style is often described as a blend of modern abstraction and classical techniques, which few artists can replicate. It is known that Nancy Orr draws inspiration from the things around her. She uses vibrant colors and intricate designs to convey emotions and narratives through her work. Her art also reflects the things she's most passionate about. Her art often reflects themes of community, identity, and resilience, and it's a true testament to her life. Putting her life on the mountainside and her artistic achievements, Nancy Orr is known for her philanthropic efforts. She has been actively involved in many charitable events and organizations, proving that the most kind-hearted people use their fame for good. Nancy Orr from Mountain is genuinely one of a kind. She takes pride in giving back to charitable organizations focusing on education, mental health awareness, and support for underprivileged communities. NY's role was never just tied down to a title as Tom Moore's wife. She spread her wings far enough to help others in need. It was her way of doing her part in a community she loves. Her commitment to giving back has earned her respect and admiration from many within and beyond the Mountain Men universe. Returning to where many fans fell in love with her aura, Nancy isn't the type of personality to seek attention through trivial things. Her presence alone on Mountain Men captured the hearts of many. Fans have described her as strong, wise, and quietly powerful. Some online communities have called her the unsung hero of the entire series. Her underdog status on Mountain Men makes her relatable to all those who love her. Her remarkable and often heartbreaking journey is a testament to her power, passion, and resilience. Rivaling her life as an individual is her love story with Tom. Our pair tied the knot soon after they met, and while Nancy Orr values her privacy, watching the Mountain Men has allowed fans to glimpse her life's journey alongside Tom Orr. Nancy Orr is genuinely the kind of woman any man would want by his side. But is her life's journey far too heartbreaking to handle for the average human? It's uncertain what happens in her private life, but she still shares glimpses through interviews and social media. Nancy Orr cherishes her family, even through the most challenging moments, and loves spending time with friends and family. She also has quite the supportive network, including her famous husband, Tom Orr, who has played a crucial role in her success. It is one thing to love the woman Nancy Orr is because of her stint on Mountain Men, and it is yet another thing to love her for her dedication to philanthropy and her ability to sift through life's most heartbreaking circumstances. The heartbreaking challenges life for the Orrs began to get more complicated as the fame grew. Tom Orr was pushing 70, yet he was still chopping wood and wading through icy rivers. While the world admired Tom and Nancy, nature's complicated aura had a lot in store for them. Challenges began to arise in various forms, but the first challenge to emerge was the snow. Tom Orr was not a stranger to dealing with the winter. He had done so for 30-odd years. However, this time it was different. Tom Orr had a routine. It was a routine act of shoveling his cabin's roof. But this time around, everything came crashing down. Tom Orr had climbed his roof countless times before, and this was due to the snow loads, which posed a serious threat in Montana winters. These snow loads were powerful enough to cause a buildup, which could inevitably lead to the collapse of a roof. Tom grabbed his shovel and climbed up to avoid this predicament. But this time, the ice was slicier than ever. Unfortunately, the worst did happen. Tom's boots lost their grip. Before anyone knew it, he had fallen to the ground. The impact of the fall was beyond brutal. Nancy Orr was left beside herself. Tom had fallen off the roof, and his recovery was as painful as the fall. The fall left him in debilitating pain, and the recovery process was painfully slow. This was a clear sign from the wilderness itself. Maybe Tom's body could no longer keep up with the demands of the mountain lifestyle. Tom had grown used to chopping wood, climbing rooftops, and hauling supplies through waist-deep snow. However, these lifestyle habits cost him his life, and Nancy grew weary of his behavior. Thankfully, Nancy Orr had been there when he had fallen. In a fit of despair, she ran to her husband's aid, and through the physical pain he was going through, she was also emotionally distraught. What if she wasn't there next time? What would happen then? What if Tom had fallen deeper into the snow? Or worse, what if he had fallen on the ice when no one was in sight to lend a helping hand? The Orrs found themselves in a painful and challenging predicament. Tom had built his life around self-sufficiency and independence, but he was only human, and the mountains had a chaotic way of reminding him. The freedom he once revealed was slowly slipping away, and for the first time in forever, he had to face the truth head-on. He could not outrun time forever. Tom and Nancy began to weigh their options slowly, almost subconsciously at first, as though admitting the truth out loud would make it harder to bear. They circled the idea for months, dancing delicately between denial and acceptance. Then one day the quiet decision crept in like the first snow of winter. Soft, slow, and irreversible. They were going to leave Montana. That decision, though not made in a single moment, struck with the weight of finality when spoken aloud. Leaving Montana wasn't like changing addresses or flipping through destinations on a map. It was more like stepping away from a part of themselves. They weren't just packing up a house. They were burying a chapter of their identity, carved into the Bitterroot Valley soil, and echoed in the timber of the cabins Tom had built with his own two hands. They had lived side by side with the land for over 30 years. Their daily rhythm flowed with the seasons. Spring meant patching the roof and checking the traps. Summer meant long days in the sun, stacking firewood and tending the garden. Fall was for hunting and preparing, and winter tested them. It always had, but something had changed. The winters were no longer a challenge to conquer. They had become a threat. The cold bit deeper than before, and Tom's joints, worn from decades of labor, ached in ways he could no longer ignore. Nancy began to worry during snowstorms. Not about being snowed in, but about what might happen if Tom fell or became ill, and they couldn't get help in time. The mountains that once gave them peace now whispered of risks they couldn't afford to take. So they did what they had never imagined they would. They started searching. Maps, listings, phone calls. They hunted for a place that didn't echo with loneliness or isolation. It surprised even them when Florida emerged as the best option. Not because of its beauty, which was foreign to them, or the climate, which would take getting used to, but because of what it offered: proximity to family. After all those years of sending Christmas gifts in the mail and watching their grandchildren grow up through holiday photos, they would now be close enough to attend birthday parties, school plays, and Sunday dinners. Florida was a world away from Montana in every possible sense. There were no towering peaks or crisp pine air, no elk at dawn or wood smoke in the evening. It was sand instead of soil, humidity instead of snow, and palm trees instead of evergreens. But something was healing in being near children's laughter and the warmth of shared meals. They would trade solitude for connection, frost for sunshine, independence for interdependence. When the day finally came to say goodbye, it wasn't loud. There were no big announcements, no dramatic final looks at the mountains. It was quiet, reverent. Tom stood on the porch he had built, running a weathered hand along the railing, not because he was stalling, but because he remembered. Nancy gently closed the door behind her, knowing that the place they were leaving was more than a house. It was a testament to everything they had endured and loved. They drove away slowly, the old truck groaning under the weight of tools, photo albums, and pieces of a life that had been hard-earned and intensely lived. The roads twisted through pine forests and open fields, eventually flattening as the landscape changed. The mountains disappeared in the rear-view mirror, but the memories clung to them, like the scent of wood smoke in their clothes. Their new life in Florida would be easier in some ways, and more complicated in others. Tom would miss the silence of the woods, the way the stars looked from their back porch, the satisfying ache of a good day's work. Nancy would miss the rhythm of the seasons, the stillness, the solitude. But what they gained in return was equally profound. The giggle of a grandchild down the hallway, the simple joy of a hot meal shared with loved ones, the gentle reassurance of family nearby. Leaving Montana broke their hearts in places they didn't know could break. But together they faced the heartbreak, just like they had faced every snowstorm and every setback. They held each other through the grief of goodbye and leaned into the unknown with the quiet courage of people who had survived much and learned when to fight and when to let go. In the end, it wasn't just about surviving. It was about living well. And sometimes living well meant knowing when to release something precious to make room for something equally sacred: presence, connection, and the beauty of being known. Tom Orr's health battles and tragic losses. In 2022, during the filming of season 11 of the Mountain Men reality show, Tom Orr faced one of the toughest challenges of his life, a health scare that almost ended his mountain life altogether. This health scare marked yet another excruciating heartbreak for his wife, Nancy. At this point, Tom was 80 years old and continued living in the Yacht Valley of Montana, pursuing his off-grid lifestyle. While he wasn't featured on the show, his health had become a growing concern for all those around, especially for Nancy or Dot. Tom was diagnosed with a serious heart condition, which had the potential to lead to shortness of breath and fluid accumulation in the lungs. The doctors discovered that the fluids had begun to accumulate in his lungs, which was caused by a weakening of the heart muscle. This caused turmoil for not just Tom, but for Nancy too, as this condition had the potential to be fatal if it was left untreated. Tom was prescribed a rigorous regimen. He had to take medication. He had a heart rate monitor and a defibrillator vest. Following this strict regimen proved to be a nightmare. The Orrs were moving far away from the nearest hospital, in a place with little to no cell service. It was an impossible logical feat to get through. But in the midst of it all, Nancy Orr remained steadfast and strong. Nancy began to take over more of the physical workload, all while ensuring that Tom took his medications. She would also monitor his symptoms, and most importantly, she was an emotional support for him through it all. The toll this incident took on Tom was overwhelming, and the same could be said about the toll it had on Nancy. Nancy Orr was left heartbroken at the thought of losing her life partner, but she remained focused on surviving the wilderness. She was a beacon of hope for Tom, even through the depths of her emotional pain. She knew all too well that survival wasn't just about enduring the wilderness, but also about enduring life's most challenging moments together. By the year 2024, Tom's condition had worsened, leading to another hospitalization. Nancy Orr was shaken at the thought of Tom's declining health. Fans also feared the worst, and rumors of his passing began to spread like wildfire online. Fortunately, Tom survived, and Nancy never left his side. Putting aside the health scare, the Orrs faced an incredibly heartbreaking loss in 2015. It was April 26th, and the day marked a tragedy no parents should ever have to witness. On that day in April, Tom's daughter, Orr, passed away in St. Petersburg, Florida. She was 49 years old, and known for her role in the TV series Mountain Men from 2012 to 2014. Orr was Tom's daughter from a previous relationship, but was family to Nancy. In a state of grief, Nancy also shared an undeniable connection with all who were mourning Keely. Even though they lived away from each other, Keel's presence was always felt, and her passing away created a massive hole in the hearts of all those who loved her. Details of Keel's loss remained private for the family's sake, but the emotional toll it took on Tom and Nancy was heartbreaking and profound. Friends close to the family say that even while heartbroken, Nancy still held Tom together during those trying months. This shows that even through all the health scares, loss, and heartbreaks in the winter, Nancy has always remained a source of strength for the Orr household. Through a lifestyle that not many would survive, she stood tall. Nancy remained strong for her husband Tom, even as she nursed her heartbreak. She may not be a fan of the spotlight, but she deserves all the love and support she has garnered due to it. As Tom and Nancy backed away from the spotlight, rumors began to spread all over the internet. People began to wonder if Tom Orr had passed away. People began to wonder if he was still sick or living in secret. And finally, we have the truth. Tom Orr is alive and well. He has retired from the rugged life of the mountains, but he remains healthy and continues to age naturally, like anyone would, after living a life of adventure for decades. He and Nancy Orr are no longer on the show Mountain Men, but they are also not in hiding. Tom and Nancy continue to enjoy the life they built together. Occasionally, they attend events, interviews, and even update fans on their current projects. The story of Tom and Nancy Orr is filled with a lifetime of love, adventure, and heartbreak. Yet, despite it all, they remain steadfast to self-reliance, courage, freedom, love, and authenticity. Nancy Orr stands in place of every woman who withers through the storms and heartbreaks of life to cater to all those she loves. Her influence extends beyond her artwork and lives through her initiatives. She's more than just Tom Orr's wife. In her way, she continues to touch the lives of countless individuals, even living in the Sunshine State. Tom found a way to keep going. Leaving the mountains didn't entail staying idle. He continued to keep busy with crafts and working with leather. Nancy Orr remained by his side through it all. She remained a steadfast partner who continued to embrace their quiet adventures and found joy in their simple life routines. Tom and Nancy spent decades of their lives in Yak Valley. Through all these years, they've gathered a lifetime of fond memories that will follow them wherever they go. These aren't just memories, but also the foundation of their characters and a blueprint to their authentic life. The Orrs' commitment to self-sufficiency remains all through the years and heartbreaks. As far as their life journey goes, they enjoy peace wherever they are and wherever home may be. They may continue to find survival and adventure in the little things. They might cultivate a small garden instead of chopping up big trees for firewood. Their love of the land, wherever they are, is just as inspiring as they are. Their connection to the wild remains alive through all the heartbreak of life, and fans are in awe of it. Tom and Nancy will continue sharing the life they fought hard to build. While they remain private, they still try to live their lives with resilience and courage. Through it all, they stay true to their values, choosing freedom over comfort and authenticity over fame. They continue to inspire millions of people to do the same. They have truly lived a unique and exemplary life on screen, and it is one worth watching through the lens of mountain men. Nancy R. is undoubtedly a force to be reckoned with. If you are moved or inspired by her story, just remember the power of choosing a path that's yours in life. What can you say about her? Share your thoughts in the comments. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.